Hello, I'm Dima Hijazi, Automation Team Leader at ISS, and in today's episode, we will go through the travel request process under the administration module. We will check how you can build and automate your travel request using Nintex Forms and Nintex Workflow for SharePoint. Let's go now for our process. So Nintex operates on top of SharePoint. So here we have a dashboard built on top of SharePoint and will contains all the models regarding the travel request from submitting the travel request to open the form and the digital form, to check your pending tasks, to check the reports related to the travel request, check the mapping of the process inside Nintex Pro Map, and of course to check and monitor the dashboard regarding the travel request. So our form will be designed using Nintex Form, and Nintex Form have two types of designer, Nintex Classic Designer and Nintex New Responsive Design or Responsive Design. Here in our case, we have the Classic Design. The Classic Design, the features of the Classic Design that you can embed your own styling sheets, the branding of the company or the organization directly inside your form. However, in the new responsive design, you will leverage the feature to have your form responsive on any device, on desktop, on mobile application, or on any tablet without any additional configuration. Noting that all these can be done using drag and drop. No need to add code, no need to add no need for development or programming skills to develop any form on top of Nintex Forms. So here we have the travel request. The travel request is available in two languages, English and Arabic. We have here the English part, employee information. All this information from the logged in username or the initiator name, we will see in which department, his mobile number, country, his position, his supervisor, etc. All these are synchronized with the Active Directory of the organization. Then we have the travel information. Here, the initiator should specify the route of his travel. He can add multiple routes from one country to another, then from country Y to country Z, etc. Automatically here, the number of days will be calculated based on his route and from the initial departure till the destination. Here he can add the purpose, but the strong point of this form and the advanced feature is this pop-up. Automatically when you click on this play, you can generate your trip. You can add multiple routes. For example, here, using this plus button, I can have multiple routes here. I will specify the departure from Beirut to Jeddah, then I should go to Riyadh, then to Dubai. And for each destination, I can specify the arrival date. For example, Jeddah, I will be there on Sunday, then I should be in Riyadh on Wednesday, then in Dubai, I should be available on 13th of June. Automatically, the date will be generated, arrived on this date. And you can also delete a route. For example, I should delete this one. I can add it. Another one, I should go, for example, to Muscat, and I will add the arrival date, which will be on 7. And upon clicking on Generate Trip, all the routes, we have 3 routes, will be generated automatically inside the repeating section, and the number of days between the departure date till the arrival date of the last destination will be calculated here, plus from to date will be calculated based on the first row of the repeating section and the last row of my repeating section. Here I can add the purpose of this trip. Example, business trip, events, etc. Trip arrangement, I need air flight booking. So I should specify the departure flight and the returning flight. example, departure using Qatar Airways and returning flights using Emirates Airlines. These flights can be automatically retrieved from a specific API or external system where all the flights will be specified there, or even from SQL server. So if you need to retrieve it from SQL server, you already have out-of-the-box action to query data from inside SQL, or if it should be retrieved from an external system, you can use the web service out-of-the-box action and configure it based on the external system. You can add also hotel booking. So I will choose the hotel destination and the hotel name. I can add airport pickup, business class, visa, rental car booking. For the rental car, I have different car available here. All these can be adjusted and can be changed from inside the form designer. I can add additional information if needed. And I can add attachment as well. Example, I can add this image. Plus here, you can strict or restrict the type of attachment, the size of the attachment, and also the number of attachments. And here, of course, we have our progress bar. So upon submitting the initial form, the submitter or the initiator can track the request using this progress bar. For example, it will be with the direct manager, so it will have a red flag here and a green flag here, and the initiator can check the comments and the action taken during the travel request flow. Plus, we have this help button. So the condition for approval, we have different conditions. All these conditions can be specified as well from inside the Nintex form designer and can be added using the feature of embedding CSS and JavaScript inside your form. This form is also available in Arabic language. The same feature, we have the synchronization with the Active Directory. The travel details as well with the pop-up window here, the trip arrangement, etc., and the condition of approval. I will click on send, and now we will go to our designer and check step by step how you can configure this form. So now we'll check how you can design and configure your form. So here's our form. We have out-of-the-box actions and controls available to be used. If you want to integrate, for example, as discussed previously with SQL, you have out-of-the-box action. And inside your action, you will specify the SQL destination database, the connection type, the authentication type, etc., and what to retrieve from this database and what is the input. For the web, any external system, you should use the web request action. Inside the web request action, you should have already the web service URL or the endpoint. You need to integrate with the authentication type, the credentials for authentication, and the parameters for this web request. So if we will go directly to our pop-up, how you can configure this pop-up inside Nintex form. So first you need to give, or you need to specify for each control inside the travel information section a specific and unique class name. For example, here for the from, I've embedded here the choices or the countries for the from, the departure country. I have given for this control a CSS class C inside dropdown, and for the to, for the destination, C inside to dropdown, and for the date, you will have the trip date from drop-down class. Then we should start to create your CSS style sheet. Plus, you should add a button. Here in the actions, you have out of the box action call button. It's here. In the button, you have different type of action: save and submit, save and continue, cancel, or JavaScript. In our case, we'll use the JavaScript action. You can specify the type of this button, the layout, if it's button, image, or link. We'll choose link, and for the label, I have added an icon here as a print. Then you should give a unique class for this button. The purpose to give a class for this button is to generate the trip and to generate the modal or the pop-up upon clicking on this button. So our CSS is here. This is our CSS. If you have a background in CSS, you should know modal. A modal is a dialog box or a pop-up window that is displayed on top of the current page. So here, we have the travel information. Once I click here, a pop-up window will appear on top of our form. So we should create something called modal. In the modal, if let's jump to W3 School, for example, here. In W3 School, you have a tutorial step-by-step how you can create a basic model, for example. What should be the background? What should be the background of your model or the pop-up window? The box, the border of the box, the background color, the margin based on the fields or the control inside this pop-up. Of course, you should add a close button to close this pop-up window, and what to have when you hover on this close button or this label. Okay, so this is the basic class. You should add it upon creating any model. Okay, regardless if it's on top of Nintex form or any other form. So copy paste. You should use .model class to specify the width and the height of your pop-up, the background color, the position based on the page or the current page. Then you should specify the model content or the model box attributes and the styles for the background color, the margin, padding, etc. Then here we have our close button. The color of this close button, what to do on hover and focus of this close button. So by this class, you should be able to create this white box and this close button. Okay, for example, on hover, the close button will be black. Then we should give a class for each field or for each control inside our pop-up. The label start, the label end, and the add route. Add route will be this one. Label start, this flag, and label end is this flag as well. Then for the plane, it should be added dynamically upon clicking on add route or the plus button. Then we should give a CSS for the button generate, this one. All these classes and all this drop down, this div section will be generated inside the JavaScript itself. So we have the div attributes, the label details, minus country class and add country class, which is plus and minus or close, or this X button. The label arrow, which is the plane here. The date picker class. the text display that should be displayed under each drop-down, the arrive on the specific date, the calendar, etc. The label details, the flag, the start and end flag, etc. So here is our CSS. Once you complete your CSS, you should start by creating your script. So for the script, let's start from the beginning. Okay. First, upon loading the form, or upon opening this form, all these should be generated. So we should create this button and add this tooltip generate trip. So here it is. We have this class, this unique class for the button, and we should add this tooltip. Tooltip is an out-of-the-box function or inline function inside JavaScript. Now we'll go to create our model, which is our pop-up window. How it should be generated? First, we need to create the div or the HTML that should be embedded inside this pop-up. And inside this pop-up, we have different values. These values should be retrieved from inside the form itself. For example, here I have 6 countries. These 6 countries should be retrieved from the from field from inside Nintex form. I have here 6 countries as well. So what to do? I should create a JavaScript to read these values from this dropdown and append it or add it to the dropdown from inside this pop-up. So here, C inside. C inside is a unique class of the from country inside the text form. Okay. One by one, you should push each value from C inside to the list of countries. List of countries is a variable inside our function, and all the values will be added to the field, will be assigned to this field, which is the from. Okay, then we have our close button. So automatically upon clicking on close, we should remove the model. So we have that remove function to be used here. On click, you should remove the model. Then I will give for the label start or the start flag an icon, which is this one. First, I will add for label start, which is a function, which is a variable as well inside my function. This HTML tag, which is label, then I will add for it a class label start and this HTML, which is the icon. Same for the label end. Then this this label start and this label end plus the close button should be embedded inside a div. So let's create our div. We have 2 divs, the div start and div end. Div start will include the start flag class, and inside the start flag and the div start, we will add our label start label. Then inside the end div, the end flag class should be added as a class for the div end, and we should append the label end variable, which contains the label tag as HTML tag, the class, and the icon. Now we have created different parts from the model, but all these parts should be merged or should be appended one by one inside the model body. So for the model body, we should first give the div tag, then assign the model content class. Model content is already defined inside our CSS styling sheet. Then we need to create something called div DLL. Div DLL or new div DLL is a function inside our JavaScript. The purpose of this function is to define and to add all these parts inside one div and define the structure of these parts, how it should be distributed and arranged inside our pop-up window. So let's jump to new div DLL. So it's here. For the new div DLL, we will specify the arrow, the icon arrow, and we should be able to add the plus button to add root and the X button to remove a country. Then to define the input, which is the calendar, we should add this calendar here. This calendar here has some defined feature, which is automatically when you click here, this calendar will be pop-up, all the previous date should be disabled, and automatically, for example, once you click on a specific date, this date should be automatically added under the country. So all these should be defined inside the date picker handler. Okay. Have the calendar, we have the display date under each country. We have to check if it's the first element or not. So based if it's the first element, the calendar will be adjusted, and the distribution of these fields will be changed. Let's go again to our main function, which is create model. Once you define the start div and the end date and the div, and you will add what to do for each field. Upon clicking on the calendar pop-up should be added. Upon clicking on the plus, a new country should be automatically added. All these will be added from here. And upon clicking on the button generate, our main function, which is generate, should be called, and this generate function should handle the actions to retrieve or to read all the routes from inside our pop-up to our repeating section. Of course, we should add all these parts from the div start DLL, the div end, the end DLL, all this to the div body, and appended inside the model body. Now let's go here to the generate button. So once the user click on the generate button, first, if the user did not choose all the countries, for example, here I have 3 countries, but I didn't specify the departure and the destination, a pop-up or a message, validation message, will be automatically added, which is please fill the routes. For example, Jeddah. Also, the validation message should be added until I add all my country. Okay, so as first step, for the generate function, we need to check if all fields are already filled and all the required fields are filled, which is only for now the countries, the calendar or the arrival date is not considered as a required field. So here you should go for each country. So we need to read the selected drop-down countries. And for each value, check if it's already filled or not. If it's not already filled, we should add please fill the rows. Okay, so if all the rows are already filled, then we should read it and add it step by step to our Nintex repeating section. So first we should read all the countries. Then for each country, append it to the C inside drop-down value inside our Nintex form. Add the associated date, the trip date from, and accordingly add the destination. So for the first row, if I have choose Beirut, Jeddah, Riyadh here, then Doha. Okay, so first row of my repeating section should be Beirut, Jeddah. For the second row, it should be Jeddah, Riyadh. For the third one, Riyadh, Doha. So by this, I should generate my repeating section. So the destination in the first row or in the previous row should be the departure country in my next row. And accordingly, for each date added inside my pop-up, I should find it and add it inside my my form. My form have a specific class for the date from, or the arrival date, which is trip date from. So find trip date from for this index, and accordingly I should add the value selected date. Selected date will be retrieved based on the row of the root. Here I have my date picker handler. Date picker handler is used only to define the feature of my trip or my date calendar that should be added inside my model. By this, I should have covered almost all the main points of how you can create a pop-up window inside your Nintex form. Also, almost some of these classes and these methods are available online on any CSS tutorial or JavaScript tutorial. So by this, we have covered how you can create this pop-up window in Nintex form. Let's jump now to our workflow designer. Inside our workflow, the main idea is to create an approval flow from different steps, from direct manager state till HR states and admin state, and accordingly take the required approval from every assignee and every approval, then to generate a report or to generate a document which will contain all the information submitted in my initial form, and then send it for signature. To create this approval flow, you should use the state machine, the action from inside Nintex workflow. And inside the state machine, you'll specify all the flow phases, which is direct manager state, then HR state, then admin state, and you should add also the initial state. In my case, the initial state is the direct manager state. And inside each state, as you can see here, somehow all the states are similar. So upon creating one state, you can copy and paste all the actions, copy it from one state to another, and then do some minor adjustment accordingly. You should add for each state a task. A task is form that should be assigned to a specific approver and take a response from this approver. For example, approve, reject, return, cancel, close, etc. All these outcomes can be specified from the configuration of each task. You can also specify the reminders and the escalation type inside each task. For example, after 2 days or 3 days, the system should send an automatic reminder to the assignee, or it should be escalated to his manager, etc. Or automatically it will be considered as approved. Then we have here another state for the HR, admin, etc. To generate a template or a report inside Nintex, you can use Nintex document generation feature. Using this feature, you can generate any template dynamically based on a specific template stored in SharePoint, for example, or in any external system. This template can include dynamic tables, dynamic images, embed the QR code, etc. All these from inside document generation action in Nintex. And upon creating or generating this document, it can be archived in any external system as well. The type of this document can differ from a Word document, a PDF document, an Excel, or even PowerPoint. Then to use, to leverage the electronic signature, you can use the action Nintex sign. By Nintex sign, you can send a document, a PDF or Excel for signing from another recipient. These recipients can be one or multiple. These recipients have different features, from signing the PDF or the document, to delegate it to another user, or even to reject signing the document for a specific reason. Even the document can be configured to have a specific expiry date or validity date. So after this date, the electronic signature will not be valid if the recipient did not sign within the specified period. And upon receiving all the required signatures, these signatures can be sequentially, or you can send this document at the same time to all recipients. You can save it inside SharePoint or archive it in any external system. So almost this is the feature of our travel request form, the approval flow, the document generation template, how you can generate it, and then send a document for signature from different recipients. Thank you for your time, and hope I have covered almost all the points.